All right, well, welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Patrick Cranley. I'm the Distance Education Coordinator here at CRC. And today we're going to be talking about Zoom, which is pretty exciting. So this workshop is intended to be geared towards first-time Zoom users. So if you have a little bit of experience with Zoom, you're in the right place. If you have no experience with Zoom, you're in the right place. We're going to take you through the basics of getting up and running with Zoom. And Zoom continues to be a really fantastic tool for us, especially since we're all online and we're all working from home. Being able to have that physical connection with our students through Zoom is a really important part of our day-to-day life here at CRC. So we're happy to be providing it to you. I'm going to share my screen so that some of you can start the process of getting an account with Zoom. So let me show you what we got going on. All right. Does everyone see my Chrome browser right now? It should say Conversoom on the front page. I see some thumbs up, which is fantastic. So in order for us to use Zoom inside of our class, the first thing that you need to do is to log in and create an account with conversoom.org. And the web URL is very, very easy. It's just conversoom.org. The State Chancellor provides free access to the Pro account of Zoom for all California Community College faculty and staff. So you want to take advantage of that. You don't have to pay for Conversoom. However, in order to get inside this walled garden, you need to make an account. And it's really easy to make an account with Conversoom. If you haven't made an account, just go to this gigantic sign up button right there and start the process of creating an account. You need to make sure that you're using your Los Rios email address here. So you can't use your personal email address. They cross-check this registration with a huge database of active faculty and staff inside the state. So you have to use your work credentials to get access to the free version of Zoom. And then all this other stuff is pretty self-explanatory. It takes some time to get your account approved. This is the beginning of the semester. Everyone in the state is probably starting to fill out the forms and make an account with Zoom. It could take a couple days for you to hear back from them. At the conclusion of your activation, though, you're going to get an email. And let me show you what you're looking for. You're going to get an email from Zoom saying, "You're in, welcome to Conversoom. Everything is ready to rock and roll." At that point, either click on the link to log back into the site or just return to conversoom.org and log in, okay? The first time you log in, there's a couple things that you should do. I always do a big check here because I'm in the profile area of conversoom.org, and here's a whole bunch of information, user information. But the most important type is this user type. This is the most important thing inside of this area. See how mine says licensed? That means I've been approved for the Pro account, which unlocks all the functionality of Zoom. It gives you unlimited recording times, all the bells and whistles. It's really what you're after. While the Conversoom organization is processing your registration, this will say basic in here. And all of your classes will be restricted to 45 minutes, I think, as far as your license or as far as your meeting time goes. So you want to make sure that this says licensed. Once it says licensed, that's it's the validation point that the entire system has worked. Okay, so this is the important thing in here, and it can take some time to get that done. Start that now if you haven't done so already. On that note, if you have done this and it's been 4 or 5 days, please return to conversoom.org, and I'm just going to go back to the home page and click on this support button. Conversoom.org is managed by Peralta College, I believe, excuse me. And they're an independent group of faculty that kind of are the middlemen and women for this entire transaction between the State Chancellor's Office and our local users. They're pretty good at getting back to folks almost immediately with their questions, especially when the questions are surrounding user activation and your credentials getting into the system, because they know that this is really the big gate into the system itself. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I can't help you with getting an account set up because it's managed entirely by Conversoom.org. I will, if you ever email me and say, Pat, I don't have an account, I'm going to say, go to this page right here, the support page for Conversoom. Okay, so once you have an account, let's look at some of the profile settings here that are important to look at. And a couple of you guys were asking me how we get pictures inside of our video feed if you don't want to have your name on here. Well, it's your profile picture right there. Top of your profile settings. First one up here is your profile picture. And you can change this. This accepts any type of image format that's on your computer. This is the one that I use for all of my stuff. So that's how you get your profile in here. The rest of this stuff you really don't need to worry too much about. It's kind of back-end Conversoom stuff. Even your personal meeting ID are items that you don't necessarily need to consume here. Okay, you can get this in other areas. Okay, so that's how we set up an account and get all the registration complete. It's through Conversoom.org. So what do we do with all of this once we're ready to rock and roll? How do we physically use Conversoom? And I want to show you a pitfall and then a huge problem and then the resolution to that problem. So I want to change over here into the Canvas page. Excuse me. I'm going to log into Canvas here real fast. I'm going to show you the problem. Okay, so if you go into any Canvas course, Canvas is loading, many apologies, and I'm just going to go into the 3D modeling class that I taught last semester. You're going to find, and I may have even turned it off, excuse me, you're going to find over here in your course nav bar, and especially you'll see it in the settings, a tool called Conversoom. I'm going to go into my course settings and into navigation, because it's in here. I've turned it off because this is the pitfall. A lot of folks, they start building their Canvas course and they stumble upon it. And let's just see. I gotta apologize. I'm horrible with lists.
It's at the top.
Was it at the top and I just glazed over it? Yep, here it is right there. So we have a Conversoom tool in Canvas, okay? This is the pitfall. I would encourage you to not use this tool, okay? This tool here, if you click on it over in your course nav bar, it's going to try to access the Conversoom servers. And it's going to pull all of your meeting stuff into Canvas. Why I recommend not using this is that it's extraordinarily unreliable. At times it works, other times it doesn't work, okay? I've seen it lose its functionality in the middle of the semester, right? It's like it's working great, then all of a sudden it doesn't work great. So the Conversoom integration to Canvas is many shades of not great. And I really recommend that we try to avoid it as best we can. So when we're working with Conversoom, the website, this in here, the Conversoom.org website really is the starting point from my perspective of all things Zoom. Okay, this is the beginning of our entire process of creating a Zoom meeting and distributing the link to that Zoom meeting for all of our students. Questions before we go any further? And I want to be very mindful that we have a lot of, let me see the chat, I'm sorry. Annie asked, how do we find this page? Annie, what page are you referencing? Is this the... And then Lucas says, is it better to set up meetings confirmed on the navigation bar in Canvas or on Zoom US? Don't do Zoom US. Go through Conversoom.org and go through their gate. Sign in, and then you're in the system. Conversoom is really, it's just Zoom. It's a video conferencing platform. It's like Skype or Google Meet or FaceTime if you're an Apple user. If you go through Conversoom, you're going to be able to get a free pro account. You can purchase individually a pro account with Zoom externally from Los Rios, but if you go through Conversoom, you'll get one for free, which is pretty great. There's a question, if I already signed up last semester, but it's a basic account, do I have to sign up again? No, don't sign up again. Just contact the Conversoom tech support line. They'll be able to upgrade your basic account into a pro account, into that licensed account. Before we go any further, on that note, last semester was a disaster for Conversoom. They created a system many years ago. Conversoom is not new. And the immediate pandemic scale up of basically all California community college professors accessing Zoom brought the service down to its knees. It did not go well. A lot of stuff slipped through the cracks. So if you have a basic account, email them, they'll upgrade you almost immediately. Here's another one. I have a Zoom account, but not a Conversoom account. Do I need to create a new account with Conversoom? It's up to you. If you want to have access to all the pro features in Conversoom, please register through conversoom.org, get a new account. At the end of the day, the link and the functionality of the Zoom platform is going to be the same. It's really just getting access to the free pro version. That's the benefit of going through Conversoom.
Okay, pro benefit.
Here's another one. If we teach at more than one campus, do we need more than one Conversoom account? No. I had a faculty member who teaches part-time at Sac State and a part-time at CRC last semester, and she's like, can I just use my Sac State stuff? Absolutely, right? Because once you generate that link, which I'm going to show you here in a second, the experience for our students is no different. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna pause on the chat just for 1 second. So if you're asking questions in the chat, I'm gonna come back to in a second, and I'm gonna start making a meeting so you can see the process of physically creating the link, the meeting, opening a door, if you will, to a meeting room for our students. Now, I find the easiest way to make a meeting and to make a Conversoom link is through the web interface. You get all the tools, you get all the options in front of you, and it's just a little bit easier. So whenever I make a new Conversoom meeting, I go into the meetings section over here. And the first option, and a gigantic blue button, is schedule a meeting. Below it, you're going to see a list of all the meetings that you currently have scheduled. As you can see, here we go. Look, we're even on the list. There's a green dot meeting I'm going right now. This is the meeting that I'm currently in. You can see the other two that I'm going to be presenting later on in the week as well. So let's start a new meeting. Okay, and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call this Tuesday, Thursday. So this is going to be the meeting link that my Tuesday and Thursday 3D modeling students would use to come to their class. So give it a good name. Be very direct with your name. This is the information that your students are going to hold on to in their brains as they manage all of these links. Your students are going to have a zillion of these links to manage over the course of the next 16 weeks. Because remember, they're not just taking one online class. They're taking between 1 and 5 online classes this semester, and that's just a lot of data to manage. So I would encourage you to be as direct, clear, and concise with the title of your Conversoom meeting names. Okay, descriptions, this is optional. Most people don't even have access or even need to read the description of the meeting link. If you've done a great job designing the topic name, you won't need to do this. Okay, so this is when it gets very specific, the when and the duration. This is when it gets very specific to your meeting time. Now, if you're teaching a synchronous class, this meeting time needs to be identical to what's been listed in the course schedule. You can't deviate. If you requested a synchronous class on Tuesday, Thursday from 10 to 11, your Zoom link needs to be on Tuesday, Thursday from 10 to 11. You can't deviate one minute. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's use that as the framework. I'm going to click on the little calendar and say that my first meeting is going to be next Tuesday at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. and the duration I'm going to set for an hour. I like to give it a little bit You know, if my scheduled class time is an hour, I'm going to leave the room open for maybe an hour and a half, just in case there's questions. It's no different than our regular face-to-face classroom. You'd hang out for 15 or 20 minutes after class is done to answer questions and to facilitate some of the after-class stuff. So I want to give it a little bit of extra time. Okay, and the time zone, of course, is going to be GMT. Now, what's really neat is that we get to make a recurring meeting.
Hey.
We want one link for the entire semester, okay? We don't want to have to send them a new link every single week with different numbers and different data. We want one. If we make it a recurring meeting, we can set the recurrence, okay? This is going to be weekly, okay? And we want it occurs on Tuesday and Thursday, okay? So every week on Tuesday and Thursday until October 6th, 13 occurrences. Well, I haven't done the end date. And let's go, the end date for this semester is naturally going to be, I think finals begins on the 11th. So I'll just put the 11th, and that will get me going, okay? Or you could even put it through the conclusion of finals, which is, in fact, I think this semester it's a Thursday, okay? So this is a great system to create for your classes, okay? We set up a recurring meeting every week for Tuesday and Thursday, and then this meeting room is going to be closed on this date. I like to think of these links as a room that we're physically creating out there in the internet, and the link is the doorway to that room. On the end date, okay, this is when that door is going to close and close permanently. Any questions on that? Okay, let me see. Let me catch up on my chat here. Here's another, this is a good question. Is the regular Confer Zoom as secure as the Confer Zoom link provided in campus? Absolutely, absolutely. The Confer Zoom tool in Canvas is really accessing just all of this information on the web itself. It's kind of a middleman, which is why it breaks and why it's unreliable. Sometimes things just don't sync the way they need to in order to get the best experience. We're going to come back to privacy settings here in a minute. So, because Zoom bombing is a thing, and we're going to look at that here in a minute. And we're also going to come back, Lucas, to talk about how to distribute these links here in a minute. Rebecca, I want to come talk about your question towards the end. That's a great question about open labs, and we'll come back and talk about that here in a minute. Okay. All right, so let's start talking about some of the privacy stuff that we can do to ensure that our rooms are as secure as we can make them. Because the last thing we want is an external entity barging into our room and causing problems. This is called Zoom bombing, and it's a thing. Believe it or not, there are nasty, evil people on the face of the planet that want nothing more than to wreak a little havoc in all of these online spaces. And it happens. It happened a lot last semester. All over the entire Zoom network, there were folks that were just randomly punching numbers into the join area, knowing that they'd get a Zoom room, and then they'd come in. They would have their audio on. They would put really inappropriate images on their computer screen, say all sorts of horrible things, and linking to spam and malware in the chat. It turned into a thing, right? We only want our students to jump into our Zoom links, okay, or into our Zoom rooms for our classes. There's a saying out there in the internet world that there's security through obscurity. If no one knows the link, or if you're only providing the link to a couple people, then how is a random hacker going to find this one needle in a haystack? Well, when it comes to Zoom, the invitation, the link, the numbers that allow you to join a meeting are just numbers. That's all they really are. And folks can just sit there and just randomly kind of guess and type numbers in and jump into the room, okay? So the way we combat this is this security option, okay? Right here in the meeting setups. Before I go any further, it's important to point out that none of these settings that you created here are written in stone, and you can come back at any time and edit them. So if you find that you need a waiting room, you could always go back in and turn that on or off at a later time. So the thing that I like to encourage is a passcode. Okay, This could be anything. It automatically randomly generates a number. This can and should be included in the invitation link to this Zoom room. I would probably not make it a phrase that is associated with your entity. Like, I wouldn't have my passcode be like Pat rules or something like that, although I do rule. Just having it be something random would give you the most secure environment, okay? And then students with passcode, or only students with passcode, will be allowed into the room. One of the things, if you've ever joined me in the DE support drop-in room, I've set up a waiting room. And a waiting room will allow the host of the meeting, the individual that created the Zoom link, to manually insert or manually allow folks to come in the room. I have to physically admit them into my space before they're allowed to participate in the space itself. Okay, so the passcode and the waiting room are two great choices to kind of stop those Zoom bombers from coming in. For my instructional classes, I don't necessarily do the waiting room. For my open labs, I do the waiting room. Because oftentimes for an open lab, we'll post the link on some sort of website that we don't manage, that we don't look at every single day, right? For the DE drop-in support hours, it's just out there on the DE website, right? Anyone in the face, that's a public-facing website. Anyone can see that link. So the waiting room is a really good choice for us. For your students, the passcode is probably a good place to begin. I find with the waiting room, it kind of takes a couple minutes to allow everyone in. If you're dealing with a class that's got 30 people in it, you have to admit by hand, 30 individual people. And at the beginning of the class time, that can slow things down a little bit. But it's there for you if you need it. Okay. Another thing that I would encourage you to set is the video on-off kind of toggles. This is host. This is going to be you. This is the person that created the meeting. So in my case, this is going to be me. So when I jump into this Zoom room, my video is going to be on. Okay. You can also, say for the participants, I don't want your video to be on. Okay. You can come in and have it to be off. So this is something to look at as well. If people are really getting unruly, you can just turn their video on, or turn their video off, which is pretty cool.
Does that apply also to sharing your screen?
Let's see. Share screen is, I think, let's see. We're going to come back to that because that's actually in the Zoom interface. That's not a setting here in the web interface. It's in the meeting itself, and I can show you that here in a minute.
Okay.
Enable join before host. This is something that you may want to consider turning off. Okay. Many of you guys were waiting in this Zoom room for me to show up today. And the Zoom room was open. It was available for everyone. This is going to be something that you're going to have to kind of gauge as you go throughout the semester. With it off, the students will see a waiting screen, and there'll be a big message that says, the host of this meeting has not yet enabled this room or has not joined this room, right? And no one will be allowed to participate in this Zoom meeting until I've arrived. If this is turned on, you've opened up the rooms to your classrooms, your students can walk in, they can chat, they can do anything they want until the teacher arrives. So it's up to you to figure out how you want to manage this space. This is something that you may want to look at. Also, mute participants on entry. I almost always have this one on. That way, this is a great way to stop Zoom bombers as well, right? Because Zoom bombers, they break into your room and then they'll just take over the meeting immediately. If they're muted upon entry, you have a couple seconds to combat the bomber before they come out. And often, sometimes our students, especially if they're looking at using Zoom on their mobile device, they're not aware that their microphone's on. And it's a nice courtesy to them to protect that moment when they're inserting themselves into the room, that they're not accidentally sharing their environment with the rest of the class. It requires all participants to opt in to sharing their audio, which is good. Okay. These last two, only authenticated users can join. This isn't for us. This is something for like the enterprise clients of Zoom. But the breakout room pre-assigned, if you're new to working with Zoom, breakouts are their own beast. I'm not going to get into that today. That's kind of an advanced thing, as is recording the meeting automatically. I don't turn this on. I manually record because I like to alert people that I am going to be recording the video like I did today and give them an opportunity to turn their video off. Okay. That's a courtesy, and it's a protection of their personal privacy that we need to be sensitive of, especially with students. Their home environment is protected. It should be private. We should be mindful that not everyone will be choosing to be on camera. And we should always be providing them with the opportunity to opt out of including their video in a recording. Okay. This last one that I want to talk about is the alternate hosts. If you have a colleague or a TA or a rockstar student that's helping you manage chat, that's helping you manage the participants list, add them as an alternate host down here. Use their Los Rios email address, okay? That way we can, we're keeping it inside of the security protocols of Los Rios. And then this way, they can start and stop the recording. They can work in the chat. They can manage the participants list. You're giving them kind of the same rights and privileges, if you will, of the host itself. When we do our DE drop-in support, I think the entire DE team is set up as the host of the meeting, as an alternate host. And any host, even if they're the alternate host, can start and stop the meeting. They can open and close the room. They have full rights and control over this space, just like the original host. So if you're working with a TA, this is good. Or if you're working in a lab, this is another great thing to use for a lab environment. All the managers and the faculty and staff in the lab can be set up and should be set up as alternate hosts. Okay, I'm just gonna cruise back to the top of this web page here. Just double check everything.
Well, Patrick, what is the registration? There's a required.
Yeah.
Does that need to be checked?
No, and I wouldn't check it for how we're using Zoom.
Okay.
If you're doing like a conference and you want to ensure that the participants of the conference are getting a registration link or registration email that includes the link, then you could do this. I think for what we're using Zoom for, leaving it off is probably a good best practice. Actually, it kind of, at times it drives me crazy. I participate in a morning group of media professionals, and because I registered for the Zoom, every time the meeting is open, I get an automated email, and it's super annoying. Okay, so I think all of the settings for this are just dandy. I'm going to hit the save button, and dun da da da, we've made our first Zoom link. So step number 1 is registering for Conversoom. Step number 2 is creating the meeting room itself in that setup window that we just previously saw. And step number 3 is distributing the invite link.
Yes.
Right here. This is it. This is the big link. This is it. This is the key to the door of the room that we just created. Anyone with this link and the passcode, I think I set up a passcode for this one, will be able to go into the room. Okay, so this is what we want to copy and paste. Okay, if you've been working at Los Rios and you've been seeing a lot of Zoom invitations slinging around over the past 6 months, whenever we make a link or whenever we make a Zoom meeting, this is what we copy. You can also add it to your Google Calendar, your Outlook Calendar, your Yahoo Calendar. Some folks like doing this if if that's a workflow that's attractive to you, I would encourage it, but it's not required. The link is what's required. That's the key to the door of the room that you just created. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to simply copy the link. And I just did a Command-C or Control-C if you're on a PC to copy the link. And now I'm going to return to Canvas. It doesn't matter where you do this. I'm going to go into my sandbox course just to make it a little bit easier. So now we're into best practices for how to work with these Zoom links, okay? What I do for all of my classes, whenever we're meeting synchronously, is that I send them a Canvas announcement that includes the link, okay? And I'm simply just going to paste it in. This link, or excuse me, the Canvas announcements are just wonderful containers for the Zoom link, because email is good, but Canvas announcements are better. Canvas announcements will go to all of our students' emails, but they'll also go to a notification on their mobile device if they have the Canvas app installed, and they'll see the notification in Canvas. Not all of our students have their email set up, nor do they look at our official Los Rios email, but everyone logs into Canvas once or twice a day or a week. So it's really the best way to communicate with their students on a regular basis. So here's the link. Of course, naturally, we're going to provide them with instructions as to when they're going to be expected to log into the link. If you have created a recurring meeting, as I have, still do a weekly announcement saying, here's the Zoom link, we'll see you in class on Tuesday. Here's the Zoom link, we'll see you in class on Thursday, right? That way it's always in front of them. The link is the same. You may even want to say, and I do this for my kindergartner and my third grader just started their distance learning this past week. And the first thing that I did was I took the Zoom link for all their classes and I put it in their bookmark bar instead of Chrome. That way they can just click on the link and they're up and running. I think that's a great practice for all of our guys and gals too, for our crew. Recommend that they save the link, put in their bookmarks, save it locally on their computer to make it easy to access the link, but then continue to provide it to them in case they've lost it. We don't want to have any barriers in front of our students when finding this information. So if we're proactive and if we continue to give it to them in a Canvas announcement or in your syllabus, that's best. That's best. Okay, I'm going to catch up with my chat questions. I apologize. Let me scroll up. Oh, good questions in here. Okay. 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 I got Lucas's. Should students use the Conversoom link in Canvas or go to the Zoom outside of Canvas? From the student's perspective, once they click on the link, as you guys did today to get in this webinar, the Zoom app takes over, right? We're no longer interfacing with a website or with Canvas, and we're now in an app like PowerPoint or Microsoft Word, and our entire Zoom experience is through that app. Should we disable our private ID number? You certainly could. I don't distribute my private ID number to my students. That is a place for me to do office hours or to have one-on-one conversations. That is a personal preference. You're more than welcome to distribute your private ID number to your students, or even use that private ID number to host your classes. But that's just a workflow preference for yourself. I'm teaching asynchronously, but we'll have some Zoom 10 during the semester. Should I make them a recurring meeting? I would. If it's going to be at the exact same time, make it a recurring meeting. That way the management of this link is going to be a little bit easier. If I go back over into the Conversoom website for a second and into my meetings section, yeah, check it out. If you have, it's going to make a whole bunch of individual things. So point being, you're gonna have a lot of these to manage, okay? The fewer to manage, the better. Okay, Lucas says, does anyone require their students to have their video on during class meetings? We don't have an official policy on this. Our academic senate is going to be looking at this issue over the coming semester. It is my recommendation that we don't require our students to turn on their video during class meetings. If you think about it, overwhelmingly our students are going to be at home. We're going to be, by requiring their video to be on, we are asking them to showcase their own personal environment. And that environment may or may not be accessible and appropriate, or even something they want to communicate to the rest of the class. Because keep in mind, when someone turns the video on, it's not just you as the instructor sees it, everyone in the class sees it as well. So I'm a big believer that we as instructors should be protecting our students' right to their own personal privacy and not require that their video feed be on. We want to encourage them, and I think a good practice would be maybe to suggest at the beginning of the semester, kind of like what we did before the webinar started. Find a place inside of in your home or outside, somewhere that you feel comfortable, that has enough light that you'd be willing to communicate to your classmates.
Patrick, can I say something about that?
Absolutely.
I think sometimes people are concerned about not seeing the picture because I don't have my picture up now. But I think they're thinking the student just turned the computer on and they're gone off someplace else.
Yeah.
So a way of getting around that is to periodically call on someone, if that's a concern of yours, periodically call on people specifically to answer a question or do something that should keep them engaged. Because in teaching on television live over many years, that was what I did. I kept them hooked in by constantly asking questions.
Great question. I mean, thank you so much. Great question and a fantastic answer. Kind of on that note, in a face-to-face class, our students can check out as well, right? We've all been in classes and taught classes where there's someone on their phone, clearly not paying attention, asleep in our room. This is really no different. Well, excuse me, it is very different because now we're asking them to show their personal private home space. So that's the only difference. And I'm a big security guy. I'm a big privacy guy. So, okay, let me catch up here. Is there any way to increase the font size of the page on display in share screen? That's my computer screen. I think there's a browser preference that will allow you to make globally all of your font bigger. So I apologize if it's real small. Okay. Is there a handout prepared for students on how to install the Zoom app on their home computer and device? Yes, there is. And let me pull up that web page here for you real fast. Okay. It is. And I'll put this link in the chat as well. It's on our online education support resources page that we made last semester. And one of our physics instructors here at CRC just did a wonderful, wonderful job in creating a fantastic handout. If you haven't had a chance to explore this website, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Let me take you in. I got to remember where it is off the top of my head. We have a page here called Video Conferencing. And if you want at any time to return and get some more information on how to work with Zoom, this web page is going to be your starting point. I'll put it in the chat. That way everyone has access to it. This is on the employee side of the DE web page. And it's right here, Zoom Guide for Students. We have an FAQ, and we also have a Zoom Guide for Students, which I think is a PowerPoint presentation, or PDF, excuse me. And then it's down here. They show you what to do with the link. They talk about the entire experience. It's a great resource to distribute to your students. Okay. There's a question, should you send the students the security password as well as the Zoom link? Yes. In the same announcement, just have the link and the password right there, up and running. Professor Rogan asks, how do we know if our account is basic or not? It's in your Conversoom account profile. If you go to profile and Conversoom, it is the, where is it? License type. Oh, here it is. User type, excuse me. Licensed. That's what we're looking for right here. If yours says basic, it has not been upgraded to the full feature set of that Conversoom provides, and you'll need to contact the Conversoom support mechanism to upgrade that. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a way to be on Zoom and also our virtual lab on campus to switch back and forth? How do we share screen? Ooh, that's a darn good question. I'd have to know a little bit more about which virtual lab and the VPN tools that you're using in order to make that work. CRC IT is now doing active support for Zoom. They would be the crew to talk to about all of that. Yeah, you have the RTVF lab. Okay, I understand. Yeah, talk with IT. They'll be able to help walk you through that process because you guys are VPNing into the virtual lab to get access to the software, and then you also need to Zoom that software. Yeah, there's some technology there that we need to manage. And if we start that process now, we can figure it out in the not too distant future. Okay. All right, let me show you. We only have a couple minutes left here, and I would like to show you some of the features of Zoom that are going to be helpful during a class meeting. Because we've talked about how to create a class, how to distribute the link for your Zoom class. Well, how do we manage the Zoom classroom, right? How do we manage all of these people? What are the technology and the tools that are available to us to help us out? And I'm going to, unfortunately, I'm going to bring you into a rabbit hole, an optical illusion. I'm going to be attempting to share my Zoom interface, the host interface with all of you, and it's likely going to provide or produce a weird illusion, and I apologize for that right now. So let me show you some of the features and the functionality of the Zoom interface, because you guys as participants don't get everything. You are only getting a small little subsection of what it's like to be a host. And I wanted you to see those host features because there's some good ones in there that will help you manage your Zoom class. Okay, get ready. Here comes the crazy optical illusion. Okay, good. It's only on my video screen that is an optical illusion. If you can find my video screen on your computer, in the upper right-hand corner of my little video panel, there's going to be a button with 3 little dots. If you click on that button, there's going to be an option there that says Pin Video, which is going to force my screen to be the full screen of the thing, and this is where the crazy optical illusion is likely to begin. I'm going to unpin mine. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen as I cruise around? Anyone nodding heads? Okay, great. So it is kind of working, which is good. And specifically, why I asked you to pin the video is just to make the icons a little bit bigger so you can see the toolbar down here at the bottom. So these are all of the controls at the bottom here for our Zoom meeting. And there's a bunch of them, okay? There's some in here that are really important to point out. Some are bells and whistles. The share screen is one that you'll definitely want to take a look at, because the share screen options, there's a lot in here. Of course, you can share your video screen, but you can also share your desktop. You can also share basically any open computer application. If you're working off of PowerPoint, and someone just, I think, shared their screen with me somehow. Yeah, okay, so only one participant can share screen. Who's sharing their screen? Lucas. I'm gonna, let's see. Thank you for not doing that, Lucas. You were a click in front of me to turn that off. But the share screen for you as the instructor is an area that you want to look at. You get a whiteboard, which will allow you to annotate your screen. If you have a phone or a mobile device connected to your computer through a cable, you can also share the contents of that mobile device into Zoom, which is pretty cool. I was working with a math professor last week that was using her iPad as a digital whiteboard for her class, and that worked to great success. A lot of times folks miss that there's an advanced tab, and this is something new, content from a second camera. This is actually kind of cool. If you have 2 cameras, if you have the camera that's built into your laptop or your desktop computer and a secondary webcam, this content from second camera will allow you to do kind of like an interactive television studio style switch back and forth between all these different inputs. It's pretty cool. Point being, explore this. There's a lot of functionality built into Zoom that might be really impactful for both your class and for your students. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm not gonna choose share screen. If you notice down in the share screen options, there's a little up arrow at the bottom. That gives you some options. Advanced sharing. Here we go. And this is, I think, what Wendy asked earlier, and I apologize for taking a little bit longer to get back to it. This is where you go in and say, who can share? Only me. Only the host can share their screen, right? And in an instructional environment, this is a must. Unless you want your students to begin to share their content as well. You can change this at any time, by the way. That's why it's inside of the Zoom session settings versus the global settings that we saw earlier. So you can change this at any time during the Zoom meeting and work as well. One thing that I think they added this new, or maybe I've just only seen it, who can start sharing when someone else is sharing, only the host, all participants. So this is, we get some good granular controls over here, which are important to look at and experiment with. Okay, other things that are important down at the bottom, the participants panel. This is a must. If you click on the participants button, it's going to show you a list of all the students and all the participants that are currently in this class. And the one that is really important is mute all. As the host of the meeting, I can go in and mute and unmute everyone. I want to mute everyone, and you can even unmute all as well. So let's see, mute all current. Yeah, are you guys getting a little notification that says the host is trying to mute your microphone? Yeah, some of you are muted, so we get to control all this as well, which is pretty neat. And that's where so the participants panel is where we get that global functionality of managing the participants of the meeting itself. In addition, if you look over here in the participants panel, you can see which microphones are on and off. So if you have a student that is just being, this happened yesterday. There was a participant in a Zoom meeting who inadvertently had their microphone on, and there was some very large background sounds inside the Zoom meeting, which was incredibly distracting. And I could see pretty quickly which person it was. And then I just sent them a little chat message and say, hey, would you mind please muting yourself? So it's good to be able to see who's making all the noise. So this participants panel is a great tool. In addition, you can ask questions and they can respond at the bottom here. You can say, does everyone understand? You can hit the little yes button, and then those icons will show up next to their names. This is helpful, but you'll find it's difficult to manage all these little kind of they're almost like little emojis and symbols in a big, huge list. Okay. All right. The other thing that I want to show you guys when it comes to managing participants is in this More section, this More button. I'm in the bottom of my Zoom interface now. In this More option, excuse me, I apologize. I took you to the wrong spot. It's the end of the day, and my brain is turning into mush. It's the More button in the participants panel. I apologize. If you're working in a lab environment, the play sound when someone joins and leaves is a great feature. For the DE drop-in support, it's an open lab, so the room opens at 1:30, closes at 4:30, right? Well, I'm doing other things. I'm working, I'm responding to emails, I'm helping faculty with their thing. When someone enters the room, if I have this feature on, I'll get a nice little chime, which is a good kind of reminder that someone's trying to come into the room or someone has come into the room and they need some help. So I almost always have this on. Okay. Lock meeting, I would really encourage you to ignore that meeting is there. We want to make sure that our students always have access to the space. We should be accommodating, flexible, and understanding that we're asking them to leverage and to participate with some really intense technology. If we lock the meeting, it basically closes the door, shuts the door, locks the door, and no one will be allowed to come in. If someone accidentally loses a connection, they're not going to be able to come back in and pick up. If someone accidentally, they lost their Zoom link, or they're having technology problems, or someone last semester, their phone battery died right in the middle of a lecture, and they had to go grab their charger, and they weren't able to come back in because they were locking meetings. So just ignore this is here, please. I'm happy to see it used to be in a little bit more of a prominent role in the interface, and I'm very happy that the developers at Zoom have kind of hidden it in a menu. Okay, And last but not least, down here at the bottom is chat. As you have seen me, dealing with chat can be a little bit of a problem. It can move very fast, but it's a great way for folks to communicate. Just because someone is choosing not to have themselves on camera or have their audio present doesn't mean they're not engaged, doesn't mean they're not listening, doesn't mean they're not participating. I'm a full-time dad. There have been many Zoom conferences where I've had my kindergartner right next to me poking people on the screen with their pens and stuff, and I'm choosing not to show that to the rest of the Zoom meeting participants. And I'm definitely not having the sound on, but I'm still actively engaged in the meeting as well. So the chat, larger point being, the chat is a great way for everyone to communicate without having to use the microphone or the camera on their device. It also allows someone to participate who doesn't have a camera and doesn't have an audio device on their device as well. All right, questions, comments. I want to turn off. Back to me. Hello. Was everyone able to see the Zoom interface for the most part? Okay. It takes some experience. The first pancake's never perfect, as they say. If you want to run a test, grab one of your colleagues. Shoot, you can even email me. Well, maybe not this week. I'm really busy this week. But you find someone in your locus of control that will be your guinea pig and test the system out. Send them a link. Have them click on it. Make sure that it opens, it works. Kind of do a pre-flight test, if you will, on working with Zoom. That way, on the first day of instruction, you have all of those little problems ironed out and you're ready to rock and roll. Because the first day of instruction, as we all know, is busy. There's a lot of energy. Everyone's excited to be there. There's stuff that you need to do. There's stuff that our administration asks us to do to make sure that the wait lists and the ad numbers. It's just a busy day. If you can take the stress of working with Zoom out of the equation, I think your students are definitely going to benefit. All right, so we got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity for questions. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, fire away. I'll look at the chat too, because I know I've left some people behind.
Patrick, I posted in the chat. I was wondering if, excuse me, the participant list can be used to take roll.
It's a great question. One of the things that I've seen professors do to take roll is to ask everyone just to type their name inside a chat, and that's the written record. At the conclusion of a Zoom meeting, you're going to get a little popover, and because it's going to save the transcript of your chat in the popover, and it will also save a couple other files. So the participants panel, no. Chat, yes.
Thank you.
Patrick, I have a question. I've heard that when we are on VPN, that we are not able to show our video. Is this true?
Yes, kinda. When you're VPNing in, and for those of you that don't know the terminology, VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it allows us as users at home to log into my workstation at CRC. It depends on what you're trying to do at your workstation at CRC. We definitely don't want to have folks VPN into their workstation that has and Zoom from their workstation at CRC. The experience is going to be quite horrible. It's going to be laggy. It's going to be jittery. It's not going to be conducive. If there is a problem, contact IT. They'll be able to work through it. It just kind of depends on what you're doing with Zoom. And that's not a great answer, and I apologize, Alma.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Sometimes it was weird when I had video and other times I didn't. So I kind of figured when I'm on VPN that I don't have video.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty safe bet because, yeah, IT is definitely going to be the crew to answer that question to help you through that. In my seat, I just kind of deal with faculty and instructional stuff, so I don't have the full picture of all of the administrative and computer services tools that we have in our campus, so IT will help.
Patrick, where do we where does the student or participant go to raise their hand? I noticed there was a hand on
yes,
there.
and I apologize. I think on my screen it was getting cut off. Yeah, I'm going to do my little thing here. So if you look at my participants panel, so I've opened up my participant panel. I can see Jaisha's raised her hand. It's down here inside of these icons. And on my screen, because I'm the host and I don't necessarily need to raise my hand, it's not in here. But on a student's, it'll be right underneath the participants panel. There's also this more option for me. This is like thumbs up, thumbs down, clapping hands. I need a break. So there's some good stuff in here. In addition, down at the bottom of our Zoom application, there's this reactions. Okay, in there, there's thumbs up, and that will show up on their video frame. So like thumbs up, it just showed up on my video frame. If so that's another way that students can communicate back to you. Yep, I see people give me thumbs ups. That's awesome. That's oh, yep. Thank you for the applause. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's another great way for students to communicate back to you without requiring any sort of audio and video.
Okay, so I do have a question. So when I have two accounts, so I did one through Sierra College and CRC. So when I do my videos to Sierra College and I do the copy link, it allows me to also see dial-in numbers and provide that to students. But when I did a test meeting through my CRC account, it only provided a link. So is there a way for us to also provide numbers to students so that if they can log in, they can call in as an option too?
1 second. I'm going to return to Conversoom. Let's see. One second. I'm trying to see. It's usually, you're right. It usually is just in there. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't see it for when I did it through CRC, but when I logged out and using my college one, my numbers, all the dial-in numbers popped up.
Yeah.
I don't know, is something wrong or?
It's still there, and I can understand how it would be. And excuse me, I'm managing 8 different windows right now, so I apologize. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to show you where to get those dial-in numbers, and I can understand the confusion because it used to be really obvious, and now they've changed the Zoom interface a little bit, and it's a little bit hidden. Let me show you where it is. I'm going to share my screen with you again. Okay. Can everyone see my web interface?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So here's the link, right? And this is what I copied and pasted earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You also have over here, copy invitation. Mm-hmm. And here is where you get the full thing. And there's all the dial-in numbers down there. Copy invitation.
Okay.
So we should use that one too?
You certainly could. Absolutely. I think you're ensuring that that everyone will be able to get access to the room, even if they're away from their computer, and they can dial in. They can just call into the meeting and participate.
Okay. Internet connection. That's also helpful. You lose internet connection, they can dial in.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Patrick?
Thank you for the question. Great question.
Conversoom and Canvas, should we just avoid using that entirely?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would. It's just unreliable. When it works great. But I've been teaching for Los Rios since 2008, and it has been hit or miss. And as an instructor that is, I'm a classroom instructor, I need something that's rock solid. I need a known quantity that I can rely upon, and managing all the meetings inside of Conversoom is that known quantity.
I have a question. So we have 33 participants, and I see like half, but I on my screen I can move and see the other people. So this is about, if we have, there's probably could be 40 people. So unless you have a huge, huge monitor screen, I would have to just keep scrolling through to see a little bit everybody.
Yeah.
Right? I know it was a dumb question. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to, in every sense, that we are kind of using a tool that's kind of not meant for instruction, right? These Zoom conferences are, from my experience at least, really designed for small groups, 10 or 12 people, right? And now it's being used to do a couple hundred people all simultaneously. We'll see this in action on Convocation on a Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be 600 or 700 people probably in one Zoom call, and while the technology can do it, it's definitely not a great experience unless you're the speaker.
So at the top where it says speaker view,
Yep.
Is that's just how I'm seeing the screen, right?
Yep.
I mean,
that's just you.
That's just
you.
me.
Just
okay.
you. Yep. So you can have it on gallery view, which is going to show you a nice kind of matrix of all the different video feeds, or you can do speaker view, which will automatically change the video feed based on who's talking. If you look at mine, if you're in the gallery view, there's a little yellow boundary, a little border around my video feed. That's the speaker. So you just switch to Cheryl because she talked, right?
Okay.
And now it's back to me.
Okay. Got it. No thumbnails, though.
Other questions?
Yes. Hi, it's Rebecca.
Hello.
I'm the RTVF instructional assistant. So I have open labs and stuff, but also can you explain out breakout rooms and how we can use those for group projects? Because a lot of our RTVF use group projects, and I want to have those ready-made in the open lab should any of the groups want to come in and utilize the open lab for that.
Yeah. The breakout rooms, yeah. Okay. Breakout rooms. The whole idea behind breakout rooms instead of Canvas is that we have small, like little miniature Zoom rooms for side conversations instead of a much larger room, right?
Right.
They are difficult to manage because you as the host have to like jump in and out. You can't see the conversation of all the breakout rooms simultaneously. So you're constantly jumping in and out. It's kind of tough. It's not something that I have a tremendous amount of experience in. So I'm not the ninja expert on breakout rooms. My understanding is that you can either auto-populate the breakout rooms or you can manually create them. And I don't know how to assign people to breakout rooms. That's just something that I don't have a tremendous amount of experience in. However, here's the cool thing, and this is why I like using Zoom. It's Zoom is probably the #1 or #2 video conferencing tool in the world. I think the answer to your questions are out there, and they're not far. I'm going to write this down in my notes, and I'll do some research and see if I can figure it out, and I'll get back to you. Sound good?
That sounds really good because I think that might be something because I do know that in the production classes they'll break out into their specific production teams and then need to come back and report, and so having them not all talk in the chat at the same time or be able to Zoom with each other would be cool. So
well, if you want to give it a try one time, I'm definitely I'm here. I'm this is my station. I have not left this chair all day long. So point being, if you send me a Zoom link, I'll be more than happy to jump in and give you a hand. We can bang on it together and figure out how to solve it. Okay?
And then in regards to that, then do students have to register with their own account in order to access our Zoom?
No, it's free.
Okay,
free.
It's free. So so if they want to meet together though, in their groups, totally different. So what would you recommend?
So we're officially, as Los Rios, we're currently trying to provide some sort of tool that allows our students to do that. Right now, we're looking at trying to provide Google Meet as an option for students to meet in a way that's in a protected world that uses all their login credentials. However, there's nothing to say that a student couldn't use their own private Gmail to host a Google Meet video session. It's free,
yeah, because you have the Hangout section in Google that's already built into their Google, is their Google app, their Los Rios. Isn't Google Hangouts one of the ones that they could do?
Absolutely. Yep. Google
Okay,
Hangouts
so they could do that and work
Yep.
within groups and that as well. Okay. Well, I just want to, I'm just thinking specifically as if I'm assisting the instructors and they have to do breakouts, or, you know, I'm just trying to brainstorming on what I might do is I might research that on my end and then send you what I find, if that helps.
That'd be great.
Let me know
that'd be fantastic.
if you're the resident expert, if you know, that will not work within Los Rios. Or yes, that will really work within Los Rios.
I'm the person sitting in the wrong chair at the wrong time.
No, and I know someone else was asking in the chat too how to do that. So I'll definitely look into that as well. And is email the best way to get a hold of you?
Please do. Yeah, email me.
Okay. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to catch up with the chat. I apologize. Does setting join before host allow participants to join the meeting before the hosts arrive? Yes. Work with the waiting room. No, it's different. Yeah, if you just have the join before host enabled, what they're going to experience, they're just going to jump into the Zoom room, and whomever's there, they can start texting and chatting and experiencing, having a traditional Zoom experience. If there's a waiting room, they'll stay in the waiting room until we physically admit them. There's a great question. If using a guest speaker from outside LRCCD, can we enter the speaker as an alternate host? I believe so. I think you can have alternate hosts using non-Los Rios email addresses. I don't know if if you need to do that. If you just give them the Zoom link, that will probably work as well. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, looks like some people are looking for some additional information on the Zoom breakout rooms. So I'll definitely do some legit research on it, and maybe I'll do another workshop next week or the week after once things kind of settle down a little bit. That way we can keep working on this. Yeah. Can you make a host from a student in the room if they want to show something to the class? They don't need to be the host. You just need to make sure that your screen sharing options in the Zoom session allows for participants to share their screen. And if you look, I'm going to choose mine, and it's down here at the bottom in the screen sharing. It's this little up arrow in the screen sharing options. Multiple participants, and who can share, all participants. So this is where you go to change those settings. All right, other questions? Did I catch up on the chat? Do you control when they can screen share? I don't think so. I think once you give them that ability, they can screen share whenever they want, which is a daunting idea, which is why I think a lot of folks turn it off. One of the things I've learned, meaning when to switch back to your screen. I think once a participant is sharing their screen, you as the host can take it back. So you can stop them from sharing it. So yeah. One of the things that you're going to learn as you go through this process of incorporating Zoom into your instructional kind of tool set is, like with everything, experience is going to be your best teacher. You're going to have to go through a couple iterations to feel comfortable with it. You're gonna crash the car a couple times. It's not going to go well. That's part of the process, right? I think from being a classroom teacher myself, there are some really great benefits of working in Zoom, but it takes a little bit more energy, right? For me, managing chat and trying to talk and perform on camera and manage all the video feeds, it's like a skill that you kind of get good at, and your students know that too. So it's okay if you're not perfect, because no one is expecting anyone to be perfect. Okay. What if your classes are at varied times, not on a regular schedule? Can you set up different days and times? Can you keep it open 24/7? I think you can keep it open 24/7. Well, no, I take that back. Zoom will kick you out of the room if there is zero activity for 45 minutes. So if you're in there by yourself and you haven't touched chat, no one's come in 45 minutes, it's going to automatically close the room. I've had that happen to me a number of times over the summer in our DE support drop-in hours. No one shows up, and then automatically, I got to restart the room. I got to reopen it again and start the clock over. Yeah.
This is Katie. I have a comment for you and for Pat Butler. So I'm trying a recurring meeting. Let me start my video here. I'm trying a recurring meeting. It has no set time. Okay. So if I go into that, and I'm going to use it for office hours, meaning I can just keep it open. I can put students into the waiting room, but I thought I'd try it for other things too. If a student just wants who's on the phone with me says, hey, I got a quick question, I can use it. So are you saying that in that recurring meeting, if I have it open, if I start it and nobody shows up for 45 minutes, it automatically closes?
Yeah, it'll kick you out for inactivity, and then you just click on the link, just start the meeting over again, and you're back up and live.
Even though it's a recurring meeting with no set time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's a unfortunate Zoom constriction. And just so everyone's on the same page, I'm going to share my screen once again. What we were talking about just there is under the recurrence interval, mine set to weekly. But if you do no fixed time, this Zoom link is open 24/7. Okay. This is how we set our DE drop-in support hours. I think the math lab and some of the other labs at CRC have done the exact same thing. I think this is helpful. This is helpful, especially if you want one link. For instructional purposes, having an end date is kind of nice. That way, your spring semester students aren't trying to access your fall semester Zoom links. If you've been a host of a Zoom meeting before, you probably have likely seen the very annoying email that says a participant of your Zoom meeting is waiting for you, right? That's someone in your Zoom room that's waiting for you to show up. They found an old link, and they're in there. So it's having it close at a particular date is helpful. There's another question about participation list. No, unfortunately for roll, the participation list is not exportable. So a great suggestion from others is to just have everyone type their name as they come into the room, and then you have because the chat is going to be saved when the host stops the meeting. Like when I hit the end button here in a minute, I'm going to get a permanent record text file of our chat. So that's a good way to take roll. Let's see. Can you make a host message in the room? I think we got that one. When recording, is there a way to keep the date and time from showing up on the video afterwards? Unfortunately, no. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Well,
Pat,
hopefully,
this is Pat Rogan.
Yes.
I have a question. Two things. One, is there not ability to do any polling questions in Zoom?
I have that on my side. I'm looking at it right now.
I mean, that would be one way to do attendance, wouldn't it?
Could be, yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of working. I'm not sure. I think the polls are anonymous though. Okay. Yeah, you can do polling, but the responses may be anonymous. I had someone.
Okay. I'll check that out. And then the other question I have is, can we put the participants' screen views on a different monitor than where I'm sharing and doing, the stuff? Or do they all have to be on the same page or on the same monitor?
Yeah, I think I see what you mean. I don't think so, because once you do share screen, yeah. No, I don't think so.
Our monitors are small and our real estate's, we don't have a lot of real estate.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, At times I've wanted the exact same thing. And it's like, I want all of my participants over here, right? So I can manage them, work with them, and then I want my share screen here.
Patrick,
well, actually, now that I think about it, I think you can do that, but it's just how you set up your share screen.
I think there's something under preferences I saw in the Zoom window where you could tell it that you had multiple monitors.
Ooh.
I don't know how it works though.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Oh,
I'll take
hold
that.
on a second.
I'll look at that.
Hey, Pat, this is
Yes.
Katie. I also just tried this and I did on the participants list, I said pop out. Oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe that's a chat list.
Yeah, participants, you can, the participants panel and the chat can be a floating panel. Those can go anywhere.
So you can move those over to the second monitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Theoretically.
What I was referencing earlier was the gallery view.
I'm sharing my screen that I have up where it shows use dual monitors right here.
Yeah, there we go. Now I'm learning something. This is fantastic.
Where are we?
It's in the Zoom preferences.
Zoom menu. I'm on a Mac. It's in the upper left-hand screen for me near the Apple under Zoom, and it says preferences, and then you go to general, and it has the checkbox for use dual monitors. Where you go from there, I don't know.
Is that per meeting or on my own profile?
On your own profile.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's a global preference.
Patrick?
Yes.
I have never recorded a meeting using Zoom. So once you've recorded it, how do you get that? And is it an MP4 that you can then put up into Studio, or what do you do with it?
Absolutely. Great question. And luckily, I recorded a Zoom workshop this morning. So I have one literally right in front of me from today that I can show you. I'd be more than happy to share it with you real fast. 1 second as I start to set this up. Okay. So hopefully everyone should see a Finder window. Now I'm working on a Mac. And at the conclusion of any Zoom conference, you're going to get the chat, just a text file. Okay. If you open it up, you're not seeing this now because I'm only sharing my Finder window, but it really is just a text, of everything that was said during the chat. Okay. However, here's the recording right there. It's an MP4. It's of okay size and quality. This was about an hour and 20 minute duration video, so about 500 megabytes. They're pretty big, and I think YouTube has finished uploading this workshop from today. So I just uploaded it straight to YouTube. It's going to be on the CRC DE channel here in a minute if it's not already there, and you can also do the same thing for Studio. Because the MP4 is the file format for web distributed videos. So it's real easy. On that regard, they make it easy for us, which is nice. Are you doing live streaming on YouTube? Yes, but not through Zoom. And that is a whole other conversation that I'd be more than happy to nerd out with, because I love me some live streaming. It's actually kind of fun and very easy. In all honesty, it's gotten very easy these days.
Pat, I gotta go. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. And as I mentioned, this is going to be on the CRC DE YouTube channel here probably in the next couple hours. So if you want to come back and revisit this workshop going forward, starting tomorrow, you'll be able to do that.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
And my clap.
Pat, this is Pat Rogan again. I have a quick question. Where is the option for dual monitors? I don't see it.
Yeah, let me see if I can help you out here. Okay, so here's my screen. I don't know if you can see the top here where it says Zoom US, but it's under my global application preferences. Now I'm working on a Mac. It may be a little bit different if you're working on a PC. However, let's see. Where was it? Deborah had it, and it's here somewhere.
I don't see the Zoom US. I just see Zoom on top.
Yeah. It's going to be in the global application preferences. And for me, it's under the general section is use dual monitors. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I got to explore this myself. This is new territory for me. So I don't know what the benefit of using this is at the moment, but there's hope.
Yeah, I still don't see it, but okay. I'll have to look for it.
Are you on a Windows computer?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, okay. On the Windows, often it's under the Edit pull-down menu. They're in Preferences, so that may be a place to look if you have.
I don't even see preferences on my screen. That's my issue.
Okay.
So okay, I'll have to look for it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. And I've placed my email address inside of the chat. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me through email. I am here to help and serve you in any way that I can. Here, I'll change my video back to me so I can say goodbye, everybody. We'll see you later.